like that.
The field has roughly the same boundary as it does now. It's enclosed by a fence to keep the animals out. Now we're going to be running into one of McCook's brigades. They belongs to Johnson's division of McCook's brigade, and it's the 1st Ohio Infantry. Now they mark their flanks. So this would mark the flank of the 1st Ohio. Up here, now Baldwin is going to get killed late in the early afternoon, in the early evening of the 19th. The fighting's going to start here about 9:30 a.m. in the morning between Starkweather and King's Brigade of General Baird's division.
No, it's just like a big moth.
And in the evening, the fighting here will be Johnson's division will arrive here and McCook's command. Now, Union division commanders and brigade commanders get a rather unique monument. Their monuments are pyramids of cannonballs. So, Thurman P. Baldwin, Colonel of the 6th Indiana, commanding the 3rd Brigade of Johnson's division, will be killed here about 7 p.m. on the 19th. And he will be killed, I'm going to sit down for a moment, he's going to be killed by Claiborne. We're going to do the fighting here on the late afternoon and early evening of the 19th. Johnson's division arrives here, and they relieve other Union troops. Now at this time, crossing the river, the West Fork of the Chickamauga, at Dalton's Ford, which you can see on your map, on map number the fighting late on the afternoon of the 19th, will be Pat Claiborne. Now, Pat Claiborne has a large fan club. Pro-Confederates like him. They see everything good about Confederate soldiers you can see in Pat Claiborne. He was born near Cork, Ireland. His father was an Episcopal rector in Southern Ireland, which is rock-hard Catholic. So Claiborne will grow up with a father steeped in the Episcopal religion. And he will go to medical school in Dublin, but doesn't fare well, so he enlists in the 42nd Regiment of the British Infantry. And after 4 years, he'll buy his way out, which you could do at that time. you can hire somebody to take your place in your enlistment, and he'll emigrate to the United States. As fortunes would have it, he settles in Cincinnati, where his knowledge he'd learned when he was studying for medicine makes him a good employee you would want in a drugstore. After several years in Cincinnati, he moves to Helena, Arkansas, where he first works in a drugstore and then reads law and is admitted to the law. And he and Thomas Carmichael Hyman, that dandy I told you about, that wears lifts in his shoes, wears plumes in his hat, and is very inclined to dueling, become good friends. And Claiborne, by the time of Shiloh, he will lead the largest brigade in the Confederate Army into battle and will lose very heavily and will perform well. He'll then be promoted to division commander and be wounded in the Battle of Richmond, Kentucky, on the 30th day of August 1862, when he's shouting orders. Fortunately, his mouth is open and the bullet goes in his left cheek, doesn't cut his tongue, and comes out his right cheek. So that puts him in the hospital for about 2 weeks. When he's released from the hospital, he'll command a brigade with great credit at the Battle of Perryville, and beginning with Stones River, is arguably one of the best division commanders in the Army of Tennessee. A man who is at a meteoric rise, but then he makes that error on the second day of January 62, when he proposes the Confederates are running out of manpower, let us recruit blacks into the Confederate Army, which after that is upward mobility ends. So he has a big fan group. And he has 3 brigades. And they will ford the Chickamauga at Dalton's Ford. Dalton's Ford is just upstream from Thetford's Ford. Much earlier in the day, the men commanded by Buckner had crossed at Thetford's Ford. So when Claiborne engages here, it's just getting dusk, and he engages Johnson's division. In the fighting, Baldwin is killed. And as I told you, it's going to be very, very cold on the night of the 19th, 18th and 19th. Colder yet on the night of the 19th and 20th. And that means the Confederates' breeches are wet up above their knees because they have forded the Chickamauga at Dalton's Ford. So as the fight takes here, generally the fighting favors the Confederates. And by dark, they hold Winfrey's Field and advanced into the woods to my right or to your left. Now they are very worried as they retreat into the woods because they can hear the thud of axes. Now, when the Civil War broke out, you used stone walls. You threw down fences, but that idea came from the bottom up. West Point educated soldiers, officers. West Point people that read Napoleon for leisure. They read about the armies when they were armed with smoothbore muskets, which were almost as dangerous to the firer as to the enemy. If I was firing at you at 80 yards, you would be unlucky if I hit you. But with the men being armed with rifled muskets, you have a good your opportunity of killing a man or seriously hurting him at 300 yards is very high. So as we shift into July, into 63, the soldiers from the bottom up, not from the top down, are beginning to throw up breastworks, using axes to fell trees, using anything they can move earth with, because the breastworks, as they can see it, is a better life insurance policy than John Hancock can write. Because John Hancock insures your life. And you would rather probably enjoy your wife and family alive than enjoy spending your life insurance. So the idea to fortify comes from the rank and file up. So that means they know the Confederates are fortified, the Federals are fortifying. And so that's why Claiborne continues to attacking till about 11 o'clock. But by 11 o'clock, you can see he is not going to advance much beyond the woods. So in the afternoon, the last Confederate attack on the 19th will be made by Pat Claiborne, and he will secure Winfrey's Field and maybe about several hundred yards closer to the Union line, where they are throwing up earthworks, where we'll make our last stop today. But before they'd been fighting here from about 10:30 or thereabouts between the men of Walker's division, McNair's Arkansans, Gregg's Texans and Tennesseans, had been battling the Confederates, the Union troops of Baird's division. And we'll go back and talk in the woods here briefly, and Baird's men are not going to do well. And by 11 o'clock, the Confederates hold Winfrey's Field for the first time. And Baird's division has been driven out with rather heavy losses. And let's take a walk back in the timber here and see what some of the monuments say.
It's 11 p.m.
We'll also get us into the shade.